Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. The last time we spoke about mentors and why they are important. So of course, we're gonna do a separate video on mentorship and why it's important. I'm obviously gonna give some of my experiences with mentors just for your benefit. However, what we're gonna be doing today, we are going to be exploring the fundamentals of creative abundance. Now, creative abundance, if you go to Google, they'll probably show you something like this. But if you ask me, what I can tell you, creative abundance is using your creativity to make the life and design the life that you want, or rather the richness of your life that comes through your creativity. One of my favorite speakers, Myron Golden, he said that we pay for things with our creativity, which was very fascinating because I never thought about it this way. We pay for things with our creativity. So there's a measure of creativity in every person. Even if you sit at your desk filing paper, you're using your creativity, or rather your problem-solving skills, to create a file system that is comprehensible to the person who is going to go through those files later on, or just your boss, who probably wants it to be a certain way. Now, being in a position where you're at this job, whether you like the job or not, you might feel as though your problem-solving skills aren't being properly compensated for. You go home from work and you're just tired every day, and you feel as though whatever you're putting out isn't being compensated for. And that just might be the reason why you're frustrated at work. But I digress. So here are my top 5 picks for creative abundance. One of them would happen to be deconstruction. Your ability to deconstruct the world around you is imperative to your path as a creative. Your ability to look at something with curiosity, just to find out, how does this work? Why does it move the way it does? It's that childlike creativity or curiosity that what makes our lives as creatives worth living. Now, to find out why something works the way it does, an example would be the way I would receive a gift on Christmas morning, and by the second week, I would have a screwdriver trying to figure out how it works. Not that I couldn't appreciate the way that the car looked, because it was a fancy car, but I was more interested in the motor, the circuitry, and the lighting that was inside of it. I wanted to know why the car lights up the way it does. So what I would do, I would loose it up, take off the hood, and then when I have satisfied my curiosity, I put it back together. And that brings me to my second point, reconstruction. After you take something apart, your ability to put it back together is imperative, because don't just be satisfied with your ability to deconstruct something. You have to be able to reconstruct something in a way that it benefits you. So my third point would probably be creating. This is the fun part. This is where you formulate ideas in your head, but you also look for opportunities to try them out. This is where a client comes to you, if you're a creative like me, let's say a photographer or an artist, where the clients come to you and they say, yo, we don't necessarily have a concept. We were hoping that you would have something in mind. This is where you go to your bucket list. Well, maybe bucket list is a bit of a strange term to use, but there has to be some particular topic or a particular style of photography that you would have wanted to do. This is where you bring it to the client and you ask them, is there something you are willing to try? Even though it's very experimental. Now, be careful, you have to manage the client's expectations of the particular project. This way, when you try something new and it doesn't go the way that you would like it to go, that the client understands that it's just experimental. But all in all, look for ways to expand your creativity and to challenge yourself. Maybe you don't know everything about a specific topic, but you understand the fundamentals of it. I think understanding your equipment is another way of understanding your creative process. Learning the machines, well, if we're talking about a camera, we learn its capabilities, but we also learn its limitations. This is where you can actually get very creative, because now that you know its limitations, you know when you need maybe additional lighting, whether you need a gimbal, or whether you need outside help, or you need a second pair of hands. Maybe your camera doesn't have a flip out screen and you need somebody behind the camera to actually tell you when you're in frame or when you're in focus. So it's these little things. You understand the fundamentals of what you have. And not only that, to maximize what you have. Right now, you're probably looking at me on a 2-angle setup, a 2-camera setup. That is because I actually had a Lumix G7 that I rarely ever used, simply because I didn't like the autofocus on it. But for the sake of this video, I understood the importance of making use of things even though you might not appreciate everything about it. Number 4, this is the goal and the growth mindset. Always have goals as a creative. The minute you stop having goals, that's where you become stagnant, because you don't have a direction. The goals serve as a roadmap to help you get where you're going. I remember there was a specific time where I saw other creatives. They had so much equipment and I thought that I needed to get that, which wasn't bad. At least you're aspiring to be like the other creatives in your circle, or where you would like to be as a creative. And even so, you might have to adopt a couple habits. Maybe it's from your competition or your peers. This is the importance of community, and I'll get into that at a later video. However, what we're trying to establish here, that there are resources that help you be a better creative. One of my book recommendations would be Atomic Habits by James Clear, a very good book. It teaches you the path to excellence is most times done through incremental changes in your habits. A lot of times we want to get to a place, but we expect the results to be instantaneous. Listen, if you're going to be in the top 1% of creatives, there are going to be some habits that you have to adopt, and they're not going to be easy habits. Sometimes it might involve waking up very early, before the world gets busy, before the noise starts, just so you can be in a quiet place where you can actually put your creativity together. It doesn't necessarily take late nights, because I personally don't believe that late nights actually lead to creativity. However, if late at night is the only time that you can actually formulate the plans, then do it. Sacrifice at least an hour from your bedtime to actually put your creative plans to work. 5, last but not least, is to create creative spaces. You need your creative spaces. Maybe you have an old room in your house, a storage room, maybe you have a garage. Even if you have none of these, maybe it's time you get a new apartment or a bigger apartment, just so you can find that space to create. One of the many pitfalls of being creative people is that we're so content with having our plans written down on paper and then we just put it in a vault somewhere. You need to invest in your creativity. We hear about the ROI, as in return on investment, but we don't speak enough on ROC, which means return on creativity. There are so many ways to be creative, but one of them, especially for tactile creatives, where you have to feel and touch and interact with the raw material to get the product, you really do need a space. Just a bonus, because I remember when I first moved into my apartment, there were so many things that I wanted to do. Therefore, I said, you know what? I grew up in a house where we used a lot of tools, so I invested in buying tools, which is why a lot of times when I'm using props in the studio, clients would be like, where you got that from? And I tell them, I made it. Simply because I developed a space, or I created a space where my creativity can thrive. This is the experience that I have lived as a creative. So do not forget to invest in your creativity. Oh, I said a mouthful. What I would like for you guys to do, if I missed anything or you need clarity on any of the topics that I mentioned or the points that I mentioned, feel free to tell me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.